Susan, your hair is still blue. It stayed in. I always wonder how long a colored dye will stay in. Freshen it up. Ooh, purple. If you have your mask kind of matches your hair right now. Yeah. As long as I guess you can match it. Oh.
Yeah, good question. It was given to me.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity in Naperville. My name is Kathy Folser, and I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to be here, whether you're here in person, whether you're joining us online. It's great to be together on this glorious day. And I know I say glorious day, and I'm not actually just referring to the weather, although our cloudy, rainy weather I feel is glorious today. We need it. We need the rain. We need it. But it is always a glorious day in spirit. Always a glorious day when we can come together, open our hearts, and just feel uplifted together. So our minister here is Reverend Kitty Benson. She will be sharing her sermon with us in a moment. But as you know, we begin by opening our hearts, preparing to hear her words of wisdom by praying in the form of song. So please stand if you're able. If you're at home, feel free to dance, whatever you want to do. And our band, Highest Good, will take us away.
Good morning, everyone. I agree, Kathy, always a glorious day in the spirit. And always a glorious day when we get together, yes? Let's sing this. We are one in the spirit. We are one in the light. We are one in the spirit. We are one in the light. We will walk on our way together, shining laughter through the night. And we'll know we are family by our love, by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand and cause the world to know the love of God is in our land. And we'll know we are family by our love, by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love. And we will work with each other. We will work side by side. We will work with each other. We will work side by side. We will guard each one's dignity. good to know that. Let's just kind of rest in that for a little bit. It's good to know it, and I get it. We each are on our own journey, on this spiral path, ever upward and forward. But it's nice to know that as we spiral upward, that we are here for one another, yes? Journey.
I am on a journey.
On a spiral path.
On a spiral path.
Winding up, winding round.
Winding up, winding round.
Circling forward, never back.
Circling forward,
Let's
never
repeat
back.
that. I am on a journey. I am on a journey. On a spiral path.
On a spiral path.
Winding up, winding round.
Winding up, winding round.
Circling forward, never back.
Forward,
Yeah.
never back.
Oh, and round I go. Deep into divine. On my spiral path, I create, and all I dream is mine. I am on a journey,
I am on a journey.
on a spiral path,
On a spiral path.
winding up, winding round,
Winding up, winding round.
but staying right on track, right on track. Oh, and round I go, deep into divine. On my spiral path, I create, and all I dream is mine. Healing,
Healing,
learning,
learning,
leading,
leading,
serving.
serving,
We are healing, learning,
learning,
leading,
leading,
serving. Oh, and round I go, deep into divine. On my spiral path, I create, and all I dream is mine. Round and round, oh, and round I go, deep into divine. On my spiral path, I create, and all I dream is mine. All I dream is mine. Declare that with me. Oh, all I dream is mine.
It does feel good to be on this path together. Yeah. To know that we're one in the spirit. I have to laugh because when you got to that verse about guarding each one's dignity, I was back there like trying to get my microphone back on and not show my underwear. So glad you guys have my back and take good care of me. So let's just bring that joy, which is our human laughter, joined with the joy of spirit, up and center in our focus, giving sweet thanks, Spirit, that joy follows us wherever we go, that we need no reason to feel it, but to simply know it's present within us, deep down, waiting to bubble up. No matter our circumstances, there is joy, and we are grateful. We thank you, Spirit. So it is, so we let it be. Amen. And I'm just going to invite all of you, welcoming you online as well, to speak this invocation with us, to remind ourselves of what's really true beyond what we can see with the eyes. Let's say it together. There's only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. So it is. Thank you. You may be seated.
So it is, and we let it be. I allow goodness to come in. I am ready to receive. I allow goodness to come in. I believe, I believe, I believe. I allow love into my life. I am ready to receive. I allow love into my life. I believe, I believe, I believe. Welcome hope and faith. Welcome love and ways. Welcome hope and faith. Welcome love and ways. I allow fortune in my home. I am ready to receive. I allow fortune in my home. And I believe, I believe, I believe. I allow surrender in my soul. I am ready to let go. I allow surrender in my soul. I let go, I let go, I let go. Welcome hope and faith. Welcome love and ways. Welcome hope and faith. Welcome love and ways. I allow goodness to come in. I am ready to receive. I allow goodness to come in. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. And I believe, I believe, I believe.
Me too. I believe. even while we're still wearing masks, although I gotta say, I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel here. I have this little thing that just started showing up on my weather app every day. When I check it out, it always shows Illinois statistics for COVID. And for weeks and weeks, it was stuck at 9,000 new cases today, 9,000 new cases today. It'll go up and down a little bit, but pretty much that. Suddenly it dropped down to 3,000, so yeah. Hopefully gonna say goodbye to these masks soon. And we're in the middle of a masks or metaphysics. What was our answer to that question? Yes. Okay, good. You guys are so good. I love that. We're still wearing masks, but we have been busy applying metaphysical principles to this world situation. Yeah? Okay. And really what I wanted to do was focus in on healing for each individual that touches base with us on Sundays or online, to just start strengthening your understanding of how healing principles work for yourself, so that when we do get into something like this, even the silly little flu season that seems to come up every year, that we are able to stand firm in what we know to be true and that we don't have to succumb, that there is an option. There's a lot of ground that we've covered since the beginning of September. So if you've missed any of these, I highly recommend that you go back and watch them. We have a YouTube channel, Unity in Naperville, and I think you can grab them off the Facebook page as well. I just feel like it's a pretty good in-depth look at why we're wearing masks and still preaching unity metaphysics, what gets in the way of our health, why we can be healthy. Last week we started looking at specific practices that we can apply to raise our health back to where it normally should be. And I want to keep on that path today, looking at some other practices that we can apply to help us. There's going to be a repeat of what we covered last week. So let me just show you up here on the screen. We talked last week about focusing our thoughts, not so much on the symptoms or the statistics, but on the spiritual power that dwells within each one of us. And we talked about the spiritual energy, the spiritual substance of spirit, that is the perfection, the wholeness within us. At the same time as a physical malady may be, there's still the allness of God's light and energy within us that we can focus on and call forth in our being. We talked about our feelings being important because our feelings are either up or down, and if they're up, we know that we're in alignment with spirit. When we're feeling lower emotions, we know that we're separating ourselves in consciousness from spirit. We talked about using our power of imagination to help raise our feelings, to picture how we would like to be when we're suffering with sickness, what we'd like our body to be feeling, returning to that which is whole. We talked about the power of our words, how often we want to be well, but then we start talking about how badly we feel. And can we switch that language to talk about that which we prefer instead, and even use affirmations of spiritual truth with our words, which means speaking what God's power is in our bodies. And there was several that I put on our Unity Community Connect.com site. If you've never been there, you might have to do a quick login for the first time, but then get there and look for the channel live stream chat, and then scroll down to look for last week's date, which would have been September 25th, 26th. And I just scrolled a whole bunch of positive affirmations that you can use to help renew the mind, as the Apostle Paul said. So I want to tell you a little story, first of all, that you may have heard before because it's from the Bible, and I have told it myself. It's that one about the man that's been lame and laying by a healing pool, which is a place where people went. They believed that angels would come and stir up the water, and if you were the first one in after they had paid a visit, you would get healed. So this particular man wasn't able to get into the pool, and he'd been laying there for 38 years. So when Jesus came upon him, he knew he'd been there a while, and he said, do you really, really want to be healed? He said, why don't you just get up, take your mat, and go home? And he did. He was healed. Well, I haven't normally told you the rest of that story. Later on in the book of John, chapter 5, verse 14, it says, "Later Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, 'See, you've been made well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse happens to you.'" It sounds like Jesus is tying sickness to sin, right? Don't sin, or else you could get sicker. And that leads us to wonder if God punishes us or our sins by making us sick. Well, first we have to go back to that idea of sin and what that really means. And let me just, in case you're wondering what the answer is, no, God is not punishing us by making us sick. But I want us to look at the word sin that Jesus was referring to. It was written in the Greek at that time to mean you're missing the mark. You're aiming with your bow and arrow for the target, but you're missing the mark. What do you think our target is here on this earthly experience? Remembering who we are. Remembering the power and presence of God in every situation. When we miss that mark, we lay ourselves open. We take ourselves out of that kingdom of heaven that's everywhere present that Jesus talked about. And we just have to settle for what the human body can do on its own. As a matter of fact, it lowers our energy. And that's the kind of understanding that we're trying to build here, is that we are created to be well. However, we can adjust that when we shift our consciousness to the lower human ego framework. And I've shared with you before, but I want you to hear it again because it keeps coming back into my mind from Myrtle Fillmore. She's one of our co-founders of Unity and had her own healing experience that she worked at. She said if all the bodily ills of all the people in the world were healed instantly, they would soon be sick again unless they were taught the truth. Now, doesn't that sound like what Jesus said? You will soon be sick again unless you get your consciousness aligned with truth. So let me go back and just remind you that this health and well-being of the body is designed to be a full-time job, a full-time expression. We believe that the mind of God created this body from an idea, got out the sketchbook, put 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a big tummy for room for food and yummy good stuff. And in that pattern in the mind of God is only health and wholeness. That's in the mind of God. Then that pattern got implanted into the physicality of the body as it began to express, so that every cell has instruction in it from the divine mind as to how it's meant to behave from a state of well-being. And that is a natural expression of the body, well-being, unless we interfere. So I think that's what Jesus was saying. Don't interfere anymore so that nothing worse happens to you. And Catherine Ponder, who I'm going to share some stories from her book today, it's called The Dynamic Laws of Healing. She's been a Unity minister, I'm guessing since the 40s or 50s, and has made such a huge impact on the Unity movement with her books. So I highly recommend you look her up, Catherine with the C, Ponder. And she says, it's a surprise to see how many people try to find their way back to health without first cleansing their emotions of the cause of their diseases. Our emotions can have an effect on our health and well-being and take us out of that communication with our higher self. As soon as we start to hold a grudge against someone, our energy starts to take a dive and we're vibrating at a lower frequency. I know that sounds like a weird thing to talk about in a Sunday service of a church, but welcome to Unity. We are a mixture of science and faith. And we believe that God is the science that expresses itself in this physical dimension. So we can stay connected in consciousness with that spiritual truth so that we can receive instruction from that higher mind. But as soon as we take a dive in our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs, and we feel our energy lower, and you know what that feels like. It could feel like resentment, judgment, anger, hurt, even a need for revenge. This is when it's time to practice the spiritual principle of forgiveness, because those are the negative human emotions that will separate us from that divine pattern that says your body is meant to function this way. So one of the things that we believe when we get into that revenge state, that need to forgive someone but won't, is we believe you took my good from me. And the problem with that is not possible. So here we are caught up in unforgiveness, feeling bitterness and revenge and judgment and hurt over something that is not true. And the reason that I can say that is because there's only one source of good, and that's God. And that source is infinite. And no matter what another person says to you or about you, it cannot stand in the way of your good unless you believe it can and you give that power away. But I like the way that the Course in Miracles says it. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. That's when you wake up and you realize, oh, I thought that they could take my self-esteem from me, but that actually has not occurred because that's not possible. The only consciousness that establishes my esteem is the consciousness of God. And I just temporarily forgot it, or I let them help me forget it, but it's not possible. I thought that they could take money and my financial well-being from me, but I forgot that God is my source, and no one can truly take my good from me. I thought that they could take my power from me, my job from me, my ability to make my own choices, but the truth is there's only one power. It's God, and when I give my thoughts to that, I'm free again. So forgiveness is really about giving up what you shouldn't have held to in the first place. And it's an opportunity not to beat ourselves up, but just to know it's my chance to release this. Now, the ego will argue with you because it thinks it's protecting you. And it's not. It's, that old adage of drinking the poison by holding your unforgiveness and expecting them to die. It's the ego's trying to defend itself, during this COVID situation right now. First of all, there's been a lot of bad behavior during COVID because we're all just desperately trying to protect ourselves. And when we turn it over to the ego to make sure that we're safe, you typically lose. But some of the thoughts that might have come up for us is, that person is trying to control me or insulting the choices that I'm making. I'm going to hold a grudge against them. But again, as long as we stay there, we're blocking our alignment with spirit. And while we're busy trying to stay healthy during a pandemic, we're also busy tearing our energy down with judgment, resentment, unforgiveness. And I want to share a story with you from Catherine Ponder. Gives you a little bit deeper look at this. A nurse was seriously injured in a collision with a car operated by a drunken driver. After recovering from the accident, she returned to her nursing profession. Again and again, the man responsible for the collision was admitted to the hospital where she worked, and always in an intoxicated condition. Being resentful of the trouble he had caused her, she refused to nurse him and was assured by his doctor that she would not be assigned to his case. One night, there was a shortage of help on the floor, and she was the only nurse available when the light came on from this patient's room. Since it was unavoidable, she delivered his tray and medicine, and when she appeared, he recognized her. He talked about the accident, and he told her he'd been worried about her financial affairs and realized that she was a widow with children to feed. As they talked, he asked forgiveness, and she gave it. Peace came. The amazing thing was that soon after their conversation, he was released from the hospital and she never heard of his being admitted there again. This man had wanted forgiveness from the one he had hurt, and when he got it, he faded out of her life. So, can you kind of see that holding unforgiveness against another is holding them to us? It's also possible that the sooner we forgive, the sooner we release and they can move on. You know, sometimes I wonder if someone comes into our life that creates a hurt in us is just, could be a couple things. One, we were already thinking along those lines. We were always in agreement about whatever it was they thought of us. But also sometimes I think it's that they need someone to see them for who they really are. They're hoping, their spirit is hoping to gain your divine attention, your divine release. Because they're probably already hanging out in the realm of low self-esteem. And if we withhold forgiveness, we're just strengthening that, not only in them, but in ourselves. Because what we focus on expands. We can't give to another without giving to ourselves. We can't take from another without taking from ourselves. So it's an opportunity for us to share some divine attention, to raise our consciousness, to see them for who they really are, so that they can heal and also that we can be released. And there's an affirmation up here that I think is kind of a good coverall for any kind of forgiveness that needs to be done, even forgiveness that you don't know you need to do. So let's speak this together. I fully and freely forgive anyone or anything that needs forgiveness in my past or present. Let's say that again. I fully and freely forgive anyone or anything that needs forgiveness in my past or present. One of those persons that we may need to forgive is ourselves. How often do we hold unforgiveness towards ourselves because we're really good at self-condemnation? A lot of human beings are good at that. And we're holding ourselves in shame and unworthiness. And as we live in that, again, we are living in a realm, an energy level, lower than spirit, lower than our higher self. So again, we're disengaging our health and well-being. We're disengaging the cells of our bodies from health and well-being because we're holding ourselves in shame and unworthiness. And we know when we're doing it because we can feel it. That kind of unforgiveness about our self-esteem, you feel it in your stomach where it's all knotted up, or you feel it where your body becomes inflamed in different parts, or you're feeling stress-related illnesses. All these show up when we decide, I am not enough. I am not good enough. When you hold that chronically in your life, you're holding that energy of upset. And the truth is, all egos are flawed. If we could just start from that premise, all egos are flawed, knowing that it's not really, to have an ego, I think is a design of God's. But to become the ego that is low on self-esteem is purely a construct that we build over time as a human being. And it's not who we are meant to be. So all egos are flawed should give us a chance to just cut ourselves some slack when our ego steps forward and starts expressing in an unhealthy way. And all spirits are perfect. And we are both. So when you're having a hard time forgiving yourself for something, when you're feeling shame or unworthiness, remember, the ego has done what it was going to do in order to create that behavior. However, I don't have to stay there. Those feelings of shame or guilt or unworthiness are only useful long enough for you to notice and change your behavior. They're useful for that. As a matter of fact, if you do something and you feel ashamed of it, it's just your higher self saying, hey, this doesn't feel good. The reason it doesn't feel good is because you're not in alignment with me. So at that point, you don't want to stay out of alignment with spirit. You want to come back up there. And that's where you come into that state of conscious loving for yourself, forgiveness for yourself. And as a matter of fact, we can use those practices that we talked about last week. We can focus our thoughts on the forgiveness of ourselves and on the person that we prefer to be. We can use our feelings. We can try to move into the feeling of forgiveness until we feel a sense of energy rise. If you can't get there right away, then you can use your power of imagination to see who you would prefer to be, not the person that you were when you misbehaved. And use your words, not to speak against yourself. I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did that. I'm never going to change. How many times do we say things like that? Or we can say, I'm changing for the better now. I'm changing for the better now. And use those affirmations of truth to define who you are as a spiritual being. So here's a self-forgiveness affirmation, which, by the way, I think you can actually speak forgiveness to you from another person without them actually being present. Because we all are in the same mind of God, right? We all share that same mind. And I think at a spiritual level, if you seek forgiveness from another, even when they're not present for you, you're still connecting with them. So up on the screen, here's kind of a template to use. Let's say it together. I'm now forgiven. Are we there? I'll come back to that one. Let's go to the next one, Cindy. Sorry about that. There we go. Let's do this one. I'm now forgiven by everything and everyone of the past and present that needs to forgive me. God is love, and I am forgiven and governed by God's love alone. God's love is now adjusting my life and its problems. Realizing this, I forgive myself and abide in peace. So, I might have put that one out of order, so be prepared to move that around, Cindy. Now, one of the things to be mindful of is when you feel like somebody done you wrong and you're holding them in unforgiveness, just make sure that it's really that they harmed you or you just disagreed with how they behaved. A lot of times we want to control the outcome. We want people to think the way that we think. We want to, take control of our loved ones even and make sure that they're living life the way that we think they should be living life. And that isn't that they did you any harm. It's just that you aren't getting them to do what it is that you want them to do. So another spiritual practice to make sure that we're living in that higher frequency spiritual energy is to notice what we need to release and let go of. When we are possessive with another or want to control another, that energy to me is bondage. And just the word bondage feels constricting, yes? Feels limiting, it feels heavy, it feels like an obstacle, it feels like congestion, it feels like a lack of flow, a lack of ease, none of which contributes to your health, all of which interrupts the communication. Higher self-intelligence, lower self cells. So as we hold that need for someone to be something else or be like us, and we start to constrict our energy, those constrictive thoughts create constrictive expressions in the body as well. And the symptoms are something that can only be released when we release our control of other people. So here's another story from Catherine Ponder. She said, a woman had worried for months over her husband's illness. The more she tried to help him recover, the more he clung to his illness. You ever seen that done? Yeah. One day, she learned of the healing law of release and said secretly to her husband, I love you, but I release you to complete freedom and complete health in whatever way is best. Do we have that up on the screen? Yeah. Let's say that together. I love you, but I release you to complete freedom and complete health in whatever way is best. When this wife had previously tried to help her husband by using various healing affirmations, he subconsciously resisted her attempts to will him back to health. When she released him to find health in his own way, ceasing any mental effort in his direction, his former ailments disappeared. Interesting that we have the ability to constrict and release, but we're not just doing it to others, we're doing it to ourselves. Ultimately, the greatest healing agent is love. I say it's the greatest because it's actually the nature of God. And that presence of love is something that is both a consciousness, it's an attitude, a point of view, but it's also a power. It's the nature of the one power in the universe. John Payne writes about it in his book, Omni Reveals. He says, love is the total and complete acceptance of what is. And so now we're talking consciousness. Love allows. Allowing yourself to be who and what you are and allowing the same right to all others. So first of all, just ask yourself, am I allowing myself to be who and what I am? Am I accepting myself for who and what I am? If not, then we haven't hit the love power yet. This is a consciousness that we can each reach towards, and as we do that, we free the love power to do its work. It's a power that when we think about it, it's something that's going to lift up body, mind, emotions, as well as our spirit. And it has the power to transform all of the limiting thoughts that contribute to sickness. The judgment that we hold, the fear that we hold, the doubt, the worry, the anger, all of those can be healed and uplifted when we apply love to them. And raising our thoughts back to peace and to life with the power of love is what will reconnect ourselves and the direction from our higher self so that we can maintain a healthy life. It's actually something that we can do. You know, when Jesus said, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. Think of the kingdom of God as love. When you seek love first, the healing takes care of itself. And something that even Harvard has studied is that we can literally direct the power of love. We can put it to use. I think they used the word turn love on or bombard with love. Bombard your body, bombard your spirit. Your spirit doesn't need it, but your ego needs it. Bombard those around you with love. You don't have to say a word. You just hold in your consciousness that presence of love, and it will have an effect. And if you've heard me talk about the Heart Math Institute, that's all they're doing is studying in a scientific environment, laboratory, medical equipment, EEGs, checking out how when a person thinks in their mind, lets it drop down into their heart, a feeling of appreciation, gratitude, love for someone that they care about or some beautiful place on earth or some fun experience that you've had. It generates a higher frequency in you, and it starts to create a frequency that is in alignment. Your brain waves, your heartbeat, your respiratory rate all become in coherence, which allows great health, but it also allows us to access that intuition coming from the heart. So do a little work, go online, look up the Heart Math Institute, and see how simple it is to really just take a minute to turn your thoughts inward, even in the middle, especially in the middle of some kind of crisis. Turn within, take a breath through your heart. Think of someone that you love or appreciate, something in life that has made your heart sing, and just sit there in that sing-song for a little while. And as your energy rises, you can ask your higher self, what's the most effective response to this situation? That's what love does. It measures a sense of rhythm that is equal to that of the higher self. It gives your body a chance to survive. So, one last story from Catherine on this idea of love. An elderly woman had been troubled for several years with arthritis, and she could not use her fingers or her hands. Most of the time, the pain was unbearable, and her fists were doubled up. Trying to sleep was a nightmare, and she sought out several doctors and applied their remedies, which helped some, but the pain always returned. One day, the biblical promise, love never fails, welled up in her thinking. She couldn't get that promise out of her mind. And then she read these words from the Daily Word, which is a Unity publication. My heart is filled with divine love, and divine love will work any miracle that needs working. At regular periods and many, many times in between, remember last week? Keep practicing. Regular periods and many, many times in between, while sitting or lying down, she mentally and audibly affirmed these words. My heart is filled with divine love, and divine love will work any miracle that needs working. She also made it a daily practice to send love thoughts to her family, friends, neighbors. She deliberately sent love thoughts to every person who had ever wronged her or whom she had hurt or disliked. She searched her heart and mind to discover any hidden or long-forgotten wrongs or resentments. She forgave all, sending out love to every nationality, race, and creed. She was on a path. Often she declared, the Christ in me forgives and sends love to you. A few weeks later, the doubled fists began to loosen. And next, she could move one finger and then another, and after a few months, the pain ceased. Later, she was able to use her hands perfectly, doing all her own work. This instance of healing occurred several years ago, and her doctor stated that the arthritis had probably been arrested forever. Love is our healing agent. Catherine Ponder was in a doctor's office, she was in a doctor's office. They were having a conversation, and she noticed on his bookshelf that he had a book about psychosomatic illnesses that come from thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And she asked if she could look through it, and as she did, she saw all these disorders that had almost the same cause behind them. Up here on the screen, here's what she saw. Stomach disorders, what's the cause? Love needed. Heart disorders, love needed. Skin disorders, need for approval. Female disorders, need for love. Chronic fatigue, depression, insecurity, need for love. Migraines, insecurity, need for love. Overeating, dissatisfied with life, need for love. Alcoholism, feelings of inferiority, need for love. In a doctor's medical book. Wow. Love is a healing agent. And the good news is we have the power to get into the middle of it in our own being and bring it forth in us. Go back to using your healing principles. Focus your thoughts on the energy of love and what love means to you. To me, it means something that is not only how I view people and myself with kindness and goodness, but a desire to do good, to be good, to see good, to attract good. So I just sit in meditation and dwell on the meaning of love. That's where I want to focus my thoughts. Then the next practice we talked about was sensing the energy or light of God. Sense it as a light of love, saturating your body. Not only doing its work from within out, but from without in, so that you can imagine, there's another practice, using your picturing power to see that light lighting up every cell in your body as little hearts. Wouldn't it be cool if you saw your cells like bumping into each other as heartbeats? And they're like, hey, how you doing? Oh, love you. Just going on inside you all the time. Picturing that until your feelings start to lighten up. Now your energy is rising and you can feel that. Feel that energy of love and appreciation for yourself. Stop using the words about resistance and not enough, and start using words of love for yourself, words of acceptance. I accept you as you are, Kitty. And then using those words to speak love as affirmations. not only to yourself, but to your family, to your friends, to your coworkers. You don't have to say them out loud if you're too embarrassed. But the more that you spread that, either out loud or inwardly, the stronger that energy becomes around you and within your being. So up here on the screen is a list of just very simple, easy to remember, write them down and sink them into your heart. Love affirmations, that God is love. That sounds so trite, but truly, if you just meditate on that for a while, or divine love manifest in me. I am loved, I am loving. I love you, Kitty. I love you, whoever you're having a problem with. Life loves me and I love life. Let's say this last one together. One more, Cindy. There we go. In purple. Love is working all things together in my body for its highest good. Did I put that up there right? Yeah, it's kind of dark. Let's say it again. Love is working all things together for my body's highest good. Yeah. You said it. You said it, Kathy. Big sigh, a release of any low, slow energy, and a taking in and a letting out of love and blessings. It's as simple as a choice. Your cells will thank you for it. The people that you care about will thank you for that consciousness. And as a matter of fact, next week, we're going to talk about how to support others with healing principles, healing prayers, healing consciousness. And our world is waiting. It's waiting for us, yes, to move into that consciousness. For now, let's take some quiet time together and see if we have anything that we need to forgive, anybody that we feel is holding us back, or obviously we're the ones that are holding us back, but we're ready to release and let go. Let's just take a breath. Give ourselves a moment to check in with our feelings today. With all this talk about forgiveness, just notice if anything has come up for you regarding others that need forgiveness or yourself. Is there anyone that seems to have taken my good from me? Let that person bubble up into your awareness. Who has seemed to have taken your good from you? When you think of that, just notice any heavy feelings, any response from your body when you think about what they may have done. This is an energy I don't need to carry. No matter what they have said or done. I do not need to take offense. It's my choice to take the hurt or let it go. Only I can stand in the way of God's good. willing to move? Or am I willing to become willing to move? Notice whether you're ready now or ready to consider. If now is not the moment, we can still allow these next words to take up residence in our heart until they become real. Until I can literally see them and feel them. I fully and freely forgive anyone or anything that needs forgiveness in my past or present. I fully and freely forgive anyone or anything that needs forgiveness in my past or present. Nothing can separate me from my good. For God is my one and only source. God is enough, and so I am enough, and I am grateful. Amen.
Thank you, Kitty. Wow. Am I on here? I'm not hearing myself. Here we go. We are entering the time in our service when we share in our tithes and our love offerings. And I continue to feel Kitty's words flowing through me. Just being in that elevated state of forgiveness, of knowing that no one and nothing can take my good from me. And so I invite us all to be in that place as we share our tithes and love offerings, knowing that that brings us to the flow of God's love. That puts us right in the middle of the stream of God's prosperity. And I would invite us all to give from that place. So thank you in advance on behalf of Unity. And as you know, we have multiple ways that you can share your gifts. If you're online, scroll down, look for the donation button. You can do that now, anytime during the week. If you're here in the sanctuary, the ushers will be coming through. And as always, feel free to write a check and mail it in. That will go to Unity in Naperville, P.O. Box 9733, Naperville, Illinois, 60567. So again, thank you. Please join me in speaking the blessing for our offering. The words are on the screen. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. Ushers, thank you.
So we'll sing this just a little differently. We'll change the words today. And everywhere you see, I am so blessed. Let's go ahead and sing, I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so grateful for all that I had. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so grateful. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so loved. I am so loved. I am so grateful. I am so loved. I am so grateful. I am so loved. I am so grateful. I am so loved.
Thank you. Wow, I am so loved. We are so loved. Whew. Spirit wash. So, time for some announcements. If you're joining us for the first time, I can't quite see in the sanctuary, but welcome. If you're joining us online for the first time, welcome. Hey. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you can just feel who we are. We are a loving, uplifted community of just divine souls. So welcome. If you would like to receive updates about what's going on at Unity, you can sign up for our weekly e-newsletter that comes out every Tuesday. You can get information about that at Unity, www.unityinnaperville.org, or you can send an email to admin@unityinnaperville.org, and we'll get you all set up with that. And what is going on at Unity this week? Our event team is meeting Monday from 6:30 to 7:30. This is a great thing to do if you have ideas or you just want to get to know people at Unity, you want to be a part of what's going on. If you want to join the meeting, or if you don't, you can't join the meeting, but you have an idea and you just want to get that out there, email admin@unityinnaperville.org to get more information about how to participate. Lunch online. Boy, lunch online has legs, I tell you. This is such a great thing. Tuesday at noon. Come, bring your lunch, don't bring your lunch, stay for 5 minutes, stay for an hour, see all your old pals, make a couple of new pals. It's a great way for us to stay connected. And is that at Unity Community Connect? Yes, okay. So you'll go online at unityinnaperville.org, look for it's a separate website, unitycommunityconnect.org. It's up there. Yay! It's lunchtogetheronline.com. Okay. Look for the Lunch Together Online channel. So this is a group announcement. Thank you, everybody, for helping me with that one. Also, Courageous Writers meet Saturday at 10 a.m. This is a great way, again, to get with old friends, meet new friends, put pen to paper, put your fingers on the keyboard, and just let your creativity flow. So see the website calendar, or again, email admin@unityinnaperville.org for more details. And as always, one-on-one prayer support is available after the service. Email your name and phone number to prayer@unityinnaperville.org, and a prayer chaplain will call you by 1 p.m. And if you were born in October, we're doing this next week instead of this week. Forward your photo to us by Thursday with your name and your date of birth. You don't have to put the year in, just the day. It can be an old photo, a new photo, anything you want. We love your photos, and we're going to sing to you next week. Okay, and again, that will go to admin@unityinnaperville.org. And our trustee, Board of Directors, Vice President Jeff Benoit, oh my gosh, has an announcement. Ho, ho, ho.
Say what? Oh my God, no, we can't have Christmas this soon, can we really? Yes, we can. we are this year, as we did 2 years ago, offering these amazingly beautiful and fragrant evergreens. And the process is going to begin in a couple weeks, and you may wonder why are we starting so soon, but if you add up the time and know that we want these evergreens in advance of Christmas, it all adds up. So get ready, get ready. We're going to be sending out messages. We're going to be posting this on the website. We're going to send out a blast. And what that's going to do is give you better visual of what these are, and with pricing, and with a link that you can go to buy these for your homes. And this year, instead of having the orders taken here and having everything brought here and picked up here, of course, we're going to make it a lot easier for you. You're going to place an order, give an address, and then it's going to come right to your house in a box. It's going to be really, really fresh and fragrant. And of course, there's the opportunity to do early Christmas shopping for your friends. So anyway, stay tuned. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, see, here I come.
Thank you, dear.
So I just wanted to bring you into something that's happening for me on October 17th. Hope that's a Sunday. I have been asked, I think I shared this with you guys, to speak at the Parliament of World Religions, which is typically you go somewhere around the world for this event that happens over a weekend, and it's thousands. There's 1,000 speakers. So, yeah, because there's a lot of religions, right? And it's an opportunity for these different breakout, groups to meet, listen to panels, talk about specific topics that are related to different religions. And I met a gentleman through our interfaith series that we did a year or two ago, who invited me to be on a panel that is discussing a Sikh concept of Chardi Kala that is actually something that people might have a hard time figuring out in relationship to grief. So he's asked me to take this on and talk about this concept that is really a positivity, a spirit of light, a spirit of all is well, how you can live that spirit while facing grief in your life. And interestingly, that he invited me to speak on that when this was a year that I lost my mom. So it's been an interesting opportunity for me to kind of start to explore how Unity's principles can speak to that. I don't have to talk on that topic. I have to talk on Unity's perspective of, it's almost like affirmative prayer, how we use affirmative prayer in the midst of grief. So I'm going to be on that panel at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, October 17th, online. They're doing it online this year. So I'm bringing this up now to let you know, first of all, if you want to be part of the Parliament of World Religions this year, just go to that website, Parliament of World Religions, and you can get a ticket for $75 to allow you access to these 1,000 speakers and panels throughout Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of that weekend. So I wanted you to have a heads up about that. I will do my panel at 9 o'clock and then jump in my car and come here to do the Sunday service. And I'm going to take that message and extend it a little bit, because I'll have more time than I will on the panel to talk about it. But I just thought if you wanted to watch it online at 9, you can, if you get your ticket. But otherwise, I'll be here by myself, sadly.
The invitation is so exciting.
I know, it is exciting, yes. It is exciting. And just very fun to be connected to people of other faiths and seeing. I remember when we went over to their location, and Kim Char and I sat there and did an interview with them for quite a while, like a good portion of the day, and learned how very similar the Sikh faith is to Unity's faith. So I'm looking forward to exploring that more deeply. So just wanted you to have a heads up on that. Now, wish I had said this before that and give you a chance to respond. But because next week's message is going to focus more on how we can support others with healing practices, this kind of ties up how we can support ourselves with healing practices. So I just wanted to give you a chance to ask any questions before we move on. Is there anything you heard today that you're struggling with, or I didn't cover, or anything in the last few weeks about this topic of healing that you wanted to ask about? Can I get you to use your microphone? And Margie's sitting right there if you want to turn that on. And while you're, hold on one second, and I will just say, if you're watching online and it's Sunday morning at 11:55 and you have a question, can you text it to me right now? Can we put that up on the screen? Thank you. So 7930993 is the text number, and I can hear from you. Cool. Okay. So-
Can you maybe share how to forgive some others who have passed?
Who have passed. You know what? One of the beautiful things about forgiveness is they don't have to be present and they don't have to be living for you to experience the gift of forgiveness, because really it's all about you. It's all about what's going on within yourself. And so, though it might be nice to be able to say it to them or have them in front of you as you do it, the truth is, in spirit, they're right there with you. Just call upon them and offer forgiveness. You know, I'm not 100% sure about how everything works in the spirit world. But first of all, I have a very strong belief that when we pass, we have a totally different perspective of life here on earth. And if we have hurt others, we feel that. We feel the hurt that we have caused, and we wish it differently. And I know it would probably lift their spirit to be able to hear from us that we have forgiven them. But much, much, much more important is how you would be lifted if you can do that, whether they're alive or not, because they are alive, but it's for you. It's a realization that they really didn't have the power in the first place to take anything from you, because all of your good comes from the source within. Does that help? Okay. Anybody else?
I just want to add a story. When I got a divorce, I was so bitter and angry, and it affected any future relationships I had for several years. And I finally
Please speak up a little bit more, John.
I was so bitter and angry after my divorce. It wasn't until I got therapy several years later, and she told me to say out loud, "I forgive you for all the hurt you created." And then I forgave myself for all the hurt I may have created her, but I said it out loud. And the day and the moment, I remember the day and the moment and where, my whole body just sort of went through a cleansing feeling.
Wow.
And I was free for the first time after probably 8 years.
Beautiful.
And I'll never forget that therapist as long as she saved me from being continuously bitter and angry. And so
Wow, thank you, John.
I had the key.
That's an amen.
We're just waiting for Park.
The key part, she said, is to say it out loud. So even if you don't feel like you want to forgive the person, your brain doesn't know any better. And but the second I did it, forgiving her and then forgiving myself, I was free from that moment on.
John, I love that. Parker, I lost my mic. I love that saying it out loud, because that's one of our practices, right? Susan has something over here. That's one of our practices that we talked about, is using our words, using affirmations out loud, because they're stronger energy than just the thought in our mind. And the type of words that you're saying, the closer it is to love or the nature of God, the stronger and more powerful they are. So your reaction physically is a good example of that. Thanks for sharing that. That was beautiful. Kathy, is it Susan? Hi.
Hi, can you add helping somebody else heal? Somebody else who's struggling with a health issue, and I can't do it for her, but anything on that?
That's what my whole message is going to be about next week.
Okay, that'll work.
And remember the story that I read today about the woman who was trying to get her husband to heal? Release and let go. We can't do it for them. But has come up for me a few times in the last few weeks, and my inner guidance is saying, see them as light. Now that's another one of our practices, right? See the divine light in them. Just call forth that divine white, gold, sparkly light filling their being, and then let go. Feel them as that which is full and whole and the nature of God expressing. See them in their perfection and wholeness, and then let it go. We'll talk more next week about that. Over here.
I was going to share when I was going through a really terrifying custody situation around my son with my husband back then. And one of the things my minister had me doing was writing letters and praying to the angel of the presence of everyone involved, the judge, the attorneys, everyone that I was seeing as adversarial. And it was really cathartic.
That's so funny, Mary Beth, because in this book, she talks about that. She talks about writing to the angels. It's not a controlling thing of someone else. It's simply just inviting the higher presence to be involved and seeing it being involved in consciousness without telling it necessarily what to do, but knowing that it is working for its highest and best. Was there someone else, Kathy?
I don't see anyone. Anyone else?
Kim Char?
Oh,
I think earlier you had touched on this idea of using our power of imagination if we felt like we needed to be forgiven by someone and they're not kind of there, whether or not they've passed, but maybe they're around, but just there's no way to get in touch with them. Are you literally just saying imagine or picture them speaking forgiveness to you?
Well, I think like what we actually spoke in affirmation today that, I don't know, try this on. First of all, maybe offer, please forgive me, in your mind, in your heart, please forgive me, even though they're not present. But then also the affirmation could be, I am forgiven by anyone and anything that I have harmed in the past or in the present. I am forgiven, God is love, and I am loved. Yeah, so it's not like you're taking control over their consciousness, but it frees you from that feeling of constriction, bondage to the other person, as long as you realize where the love comes from, where the power is, and that we're owning up to what ours is and letting it go. Owning up and letting it go.
Okay,
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think I got a text in here somewhere. What does it say? Thank you, Kitty. Felt like we attended a beautiful marriage ceremony today, celebrating the powers of love and release. Yeah, a wonderful union that will birth greater joy and healing. We can go deeper with this in the 12 Powers Club. Hey, no kidding. Look for Power of Love coming October 15th. I swear I didn't write this. And the Power of Release coming November 1st. So if you haven't found your way to our 12 Powers Club yet, 12powersclub.com, it's still offering really some extraordinary materials. So I hope you'll be part of that. Okay, so we'll come back next week and we'll focus on how to hold healing principles for other people. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for being with us online. Let's sing one last song before we go. Let's stand as you're able.
Parker, may I get guitar going? Oh, all right, we'll just. No. 1, 2.
I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only for God. I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the spirit. Yes, yes, yes. I am only here for God.
Prayer, that's a prayer that we can, and enough of you have heard that song enough times to know it by heart. Let it just become an affirmation for you when you find yourself struggling with someone else. And for today, here's our closing affirmation. Let's say it together. I fully and freely forgive anyone or anything that needs forgiveness in my past or present. That'll be up on the slides with the podcast if you want to check in later. Thank you for making time to be with us today online, and lots of good stuff coming up in the next week, so I hope you'll join us again. Have a great week, everybody.